Welcome to Curtis Ghost Corner, coming to you from a secret underground base in occupied America. Well, House Republicans blast cry wolf conservatives who tanked FISA renewal bill. Good. If all you do is scream, no one is listening to you anymore, said one GOP lawmaker. That was 19 Republicans and 209 Democrats voted against it. One of the few times you could actually call it bipartisan to a certain extent. Why? I believe the FISA courts and the system that they set up after 9/11 is unconstitutional and wrong. The reason why people are screaming is not nobody will listen to you. They're screaming because you're not listening to them. It's really and truly that simple. Now let's listen to a young lady who used to work for the Department of Justice with Bill Burr and see what she has to say.
Because something's abused doesn't make the thing itself bad. That goes for anything in life. And FISA is a critical national security tool that's used to thwart attacks from ISIS, to fight China, to fight Russia. The problem is when the FBI needs to present those stories to the American people in order to sell FISA and say, look, this tool actually makes you safe in your everyday life. They can't because it's classified. And this was a messaging issue.
You know what? They would vote for it? If every single person that lied to the FISA court, spying on a presidential campaign and a sitting president, if every single person that lied about the Russian collusion to the FISA court and all the other things they lied to, if all of them were prosecuted and put in jail, if any, I don't know if there was any, but any FISA judges that went along with it knowing it was total bullshit, that they have to go to jail too, then they would vote for it. But there's never any repercussions. You can lie. You can spy on your political opponents, and nothing happens. Of course, unless you're a Democrat and you jaywalk, the Democrats will come after the Republicans for something simple. Look at the number of people. Look at Peter Navarro. There's been tons of times where Congress, a Republican Congress, has issued a subpoena to a Democrat official. The former Attorney General comes to mind under Obama. He never showed up and nothing happened. Peter Navarro said, I can't go until I get the immunity, the clearance from the president. This case being President Trump, I'll do it. He invoked executive privilege. And then when he finally did go, they said, well, you know what? Too bad. He's going to spend 4 months in federal prison. That's the problem. Republicans go to jail and Democrats can do what they want. And of course, the 209 Democrats that voted against it, the liberals, in this case, they're right. It goes against the civil liberties of the Constitution. Not government-given rights, God-given rights. It's amazing to me. They say, well, it's going to make it harder for us to go after China and Russia and all the geopolitical enemies of the United States and terrorists and blah, blah. You know what? Then it's harder. You know, it'd be a lot easier if you could just arrest anybody whenever you wanted to if you're a police officer, just arrest a bunch of suspects and find one out of that, but it doesn't work that way. Just because it's easier doesn't mean it's constitutional. We keep telling everybody, oh, we're going to be safe. We're going to be safer. No, you're not. I mean, even if you were, what did you do from the history of the country up to 2002, 2003? We didn't catch any bad guys. We didn't catch any spies. We didn't catch anybody. That's the problem. Everyone that lied to a FISA court, including elected officials and the FBI and the CIA and the 52 individuals that said it was Russian collusion when they knew it wasn't, that were former intelligence officers, under oath, all should be in jail. And that's why you can't vote for it, because you can misuse the privilege. It's a privilege, mind you. I don't even think it's constitutionally legal, but then again, I'm not a constitutional scholar. It's wrong. It stinks. House Republicans left a closed-door meeting late on Wednesday afternoon, furious at the 19 GOP colleagues who blocked the chamber from advancing a bill to renew a key surveillance tool of the federal government to spy on their political enemies. They proved it. Everybody in the GOP should go, wait a minute. You spied on a presidential candidate that was a Republican, and then while he was president, and they voted for it. When you have a majority of members and the majority will not support the rules of the procedures set forth by the majority, you effectively are turning over control of the minority party. And that's what these members are doing. You know what? Representative Bear, you're an asshole. The majority, yeah, he's talking about the majority of Republicans, not the majority of the House. I'm surprised it wasn't a lot more than 19. It comes after a normally sleepy procedural vote, known as a rule vote, on a bill to reform and renew Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, also known as FISA. It failed 193 to 228. It still would have failed even without the Republicans. Wednesday afternoon, the seventh time a rule vote failed this Congress. Prior to that, a rule vote had not failed in 2 decades. It's about time they started saying no. They're supposed to wear that with a badge of pride that a rule has been voted down in 20 years? Here's what frustrates me is the same members who are taking down this rule are ferociously advocating for reforming FISA. Yeah, the whole people accountable. And the speaker here, who I had huge high hopes for. You can't have intelligence services spying on your political enemies and people you don't like on social media. The FBI, the CIA, the intelligence services went to all the social media companies and wanted to look into private messages, direct messages. They wanted to influence and say over what was posted during 2020, 2019, 21, 22, 23, and also this year. The only difference is they can't use Twitter anymore. By taking down the rule, by making it impossible to pass this reform-based bill, they're going to get nothing. If you don't renew it, it goes away. Conservative privacy hawks who take the bill are angry over how it was handled, including the exclusion of an amendment mandating warrants for the purchase of U.S. citizens' data from third-party data providers. They excluded a mandatory warrant for U.S. citizens, and only 19 Republicans voted against it. Representative Greg Murphy of North Carolina suggested that the group's tactics on the floor votes take away from the actual goals. The actual goals, they shouldn't have it. If you're going to have it, put in safeguards that actually work. Like when you lie to a FISA judge, when you fabricate evidence, and you go to jail. I think people make good, salient arguments. The problem is in the delivery. I don't care about the delivery. If all you do is scream, no one listens to you anymore. They're screaming because you're not listening. You voted down to have mandatory warrants to spy on U.S. citizens' data from third-party data providers. It's incredible to me. However, small factions of the House GOP's raised within the majority have weaponized rule votes to kill their own party's legislation as a form of protest. That's not why. They did it because it's wrong. It's wrong not to have a mandatory warrant to give third-party information on a U.S. citizen. What I heard is that they were pissed off about the underlying bill. The FISA bill itself has 56 reforms. What good is it? All the people that broke the law from 2019 on, and you know who they are. You know who the agents are, these agencies that went to a FISA judge and lied and knew it was a lie. When they go to jail, then these other 19 might pay attention. Why they voted against the rule? It wasn't because of the FISA bill itself. That's bullshit. It was the process. It was the amendments they didn't get allowed to bring to the floor that actually made them move against it. Yeah, the amendment to what? Right here. Right there. They excluded an amendment mandating warrants for the purchase of U.S. citizens' data from third-party providers. Oh, just that. Give me a break. Section 702 is a tool that allows the federal government to survey non-Americans on foreign soil with suspected terror links without a warrant. If you're a non-citizen and you're on foreign soil, what the hell do you need a U.S. warrant for? Even if the person on the other side of the communications is an American. If they're on foreign soil, the Constitution doesn't apply. The fight ahead of the April 19th expiry deadline has put Speaker Johnson in a difficult spot between the House Judiciary Committee and its allies, and the U.S. intelligence community and national security hawks in Congress. Well, these national security hawks, where the hell were they about Russian collusion and all the lies told to these FISA judges? When they just, social media companies just gave out personal information concerning people posting on their websites without a warrant, without reason at all, because they just can. We just gave it to them. It's a tool of exploitation and privacy infringement, while the latter have maintained it's a narrowly focused tool critical to preventing terror attacks. Like what? Like the election of 2016? Like the election of 2020 or terrorist attacks? What the hell's wrong with these people? It is an exploitation. The people that broke the law need to go to jail. And everybody that was involved in it with them. Another issue for the GOP, they're not hardliners, has been Johnson's opposition to an amendment backed by judiciary Republicans who would force the federal government to seek a warrant to query data about a U.S. citizen. How could you possibly be against that? How in the world can you be against that? You have to put an amendment in the FISA law that you need a warrant to query data about a U.S. citizen. It should be in the FISA law to begin with. Of the 19 Republicans who sunk the bill, House Freedom Caucus Chairman Bob Good, Republican of Virginia, told reporters some of us would rather see it expire than see it not reformed properly. I'm going to do some personal clapping. I'm not even going to use a sound effect. That's exactly right. Let it die. You have to have warrants. Legitimate warrants, not secret warrants with secret judges and secret courts. This is third world country Soviet crap. They explain if a suspected terrorist overseas is communication with a U.S. citizen at home, a Section 702 search would already pick up their specific communications with that U.S. citizen. The amendment would force authorities to seek a warrant before seeing the contents of that communication, which critics have warned would waste valuable time in the event of a serious attack. Don't use that bullshit. If there was a real serious threat that was incredibly time sensitive, don't think for a minute they wouldn't have the information. The only difference is you can't use it in court. So it makes it harder. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if people's individual rights to the Constitution gets in your way. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner, meanwhile, suggested to reporters on Wednesday evening that letting Section 702 expire on April 19th would have dire consequences, warning we go blind on April 20th. No, you don't. What happened before the FISA was put in? You weren't blind. You weren't blind at all. The only difference is you can't get into social media and cell phones now. Unfortunately, there's a great deal of misinformation about FISA. No, there isn't. Yeah, it's great. It's written on paper, but unfortunately, human beings enforce it. And illegally, looks like more times than not. FISA is not a bulk data collection program. It's not spying on Americans. Yes, they are. They spied on a presidential campaign. Those aren't Americans. It's collecting foreigners' data that are abroad that represent a very small group of the 250,000 who are a national security threat. Unfortunately, the proposed warrant would render our ability to see communications with people who are a national security threat, like the head of ISIS, head of Hamas, head of Al-Qaeda, in an unworkable structure. That's bullshit. Then you know what? If you believe it's about terrorism, then expose the people who lied. Expose the people who spied on the Trump campaign and all the American citizens they spied on through social media, and the companies allowed it. When those people go to jail, especially the ones that spied on the Trump campaign and a sitting U.S. president, in this case, Donald Trump, when they all go to jail, then you might have something to stand on. But I don't hear you screaming about the fact that it was misused. It's not clear what House GOP leaders' next steps would be. Among the considerations are a short-term extension of the 702 program, which both sides of the argument have criticized as ripe for abuse, are being forced to take up the Senate's renewal bill. Privacy hawks, meanwhile, pushing Johnson to allow as many amendment votes on the bill as requested to ensure all members have a voice in shaping the bill, even if those amendments do not get past the Democrat-controlled Senate. How can the Senate, who majority are Democrats, go against what I said? Where's the part that they wanted to put in the amendment? It's amazing to me. Who take the bill are angry over how it was handled, including the exclusion of an amendment mandating warrants for the purchase of U.S. citizens' data. Does that sound like Al-Qaeda to you? ISIS? Does that sound like ISIS to you? I can't even believe it wasn't even a bill to begin with. I hate to repeat myself, but I'm just amazed. If all you do is scream, no one listens to you anymore, they're screaming because you're not listening. And all those amendments should be up for individual votes. And you know why they won't? Because they know they're wrong. And it's re-election time for the House. It's a presidential year and a House congressional year, and a third of the Senate is up. And the majority of the individuals defending their Senate seats are Democrats. That's why they don't want those amendments in. One, they don't want to expose the Congress people for doing the wrong thing in an election year. And two, they don't want it to go to the Senate because then they would have to do the right thing and put in the amendment in an election year because your opponent will use it against you, and rightfully so. I hate to go on and on and on. This whole thing stinks. Spying on U.S. citizens. We have a privacy right under the Constitution, a First Amendment right to free speech. That's not government-given right. It's a God-given right. It was made perfectly clear and basically idiot-proof by the founders. And look where we are now. We're fighting over whether to get a warrant to spy on U.S. citizens. Insane. Until the next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.